The movie begins with Bob Saganowski, a bartender in a small bar in Brooklyn. From the outside, the bar looks normal, but in truth, it's used by the local mafia. Every night, gangsters drop off crime money there, and couriers later come to pick it up. The bar's owner never knows when it will be used because the mafia controls everything. This secret money exchange is called the drop. One night, Bob serves some regular customers who are talking about a friend who recently died. Trying to be nice, he gives them a free round of drinks. His cousin Marv, who manages the bar, gets angry and reminds him that this place is part of a mafia business. Nothing should be done without permission. He also tells Bob to collect money from a woman named Millie and kick her out if she stays after midnight. The next day, Bob goes to church. Even though he works in a dangerous job, he still believes in his faith. Later that night, while walking home, he hears a quiet crying sound near a trash can. When he checks, he finds a small injured puppy. A woman named Nadia who lives nearby comes outside and gets scared when she sees Bob in her yard. Bob explains what happened, and Nadia checks his ID and takes his picture just to be safe. They take care of the puppy together. Bob notices a scar on Nadia's neck but doesn't ask about it. When the puppy feels better, they discuss whether to take it to a shelter or keep it. Since Bob isn't sure he can take care of it, they agree that Nadia will keep the puppy for 2 days. The following night, just before closing, 2 masked gunmen storm the bar. They don't realize it's a mafia drop bar. The robbers threaten Bob and force Marv to bag the cash. Marv warns them that the money belongs to dangerous people, but they ignore him. During the robbery, Bob notices one of the men wearing a broken wristwatch. After taking the money, the robbers escape. Bob and Marv are unharmed, but their friend Rardy is injured. Soon after, the police arrive, led by Detective Torres, who knows Bob from church. Bob gives his statement. He cannot identify the robbers since they wore masks, but he mentions the broken watch. When the police leave, Marv angrily confronts Bob for sharing that detail. He fears the mafia will suspect their involvement since such a large sum has gone missing. The next day, Bob goes to church as usual. His attention lingers on a statue of a man with a dog at his side. Later, he visits Nadia's house to pick up the puppy. Together, they shop for supplies and decide to name the puppy Rocco. Their bond grows closer, unaware that Eric, a mysterious man, is secretly watching them. A few days later, while Bob and Marv shovel snow behind the bar, Kopka Umarov, the big boss and true owner, arrives with his entourage. He suspects an inside job in the robbery, but with the robbers masked, the only clue is the broken wristwatch. Kopka orders Bob and Marv to recover the stolen money. Marv worries this might be a trap. If they succeed, they could still be accused of being the thieves. Detective Torres tells his partner that the bar has been under mafia control since Kopka's father, Papa Umar, took over. He thinks Kopka planned the robbery to go against his father. Meanwhile, Marv secretly meets Pitch, one of the robbers. It turns out Marv planned the robbery. He warns Pitch to destroy a broken watch that could expose them. The next morning, Bob plays with his puppy, Rocco. Nadia offers to help care for it, and Bob agrees. After she leaves, a strange man named Eric shows up, talks about the puppy, and walks away suspiciously. Later, Eric visits Bob's home, claiming Rocco is his dog, and shows a chip number as proof. Bob refuses to give him up. Eric threatens to report him and leaves with Bob's umbrella. Bob meets Nadia at a cafe, where she thanks him for not asking about her scar. She explains it came from a drunk accident with a potato peeler. At the bar, Marv tells Bob that someone is following him. Bob thinks it's Eric. Soon after, they find a bag with bloody money and a severed hand wearing a broken watch. Eric later comes to the bar and mocks Bob, mentioning Nadia's name. Marv tells Bob that Eric is a dangerous ex-convict suspected of killing Rick, the man everyone mourned earlier. The next day, Bob throws the severed hand into the sea. Detective Torres questions him about Eric and Rick's death. Later, Bob visits Nadia and asks about Eric. She denies knowing him and leaves angrily. That night, Kopka visits the bar and says it will be used for a big mafia money drop on Super Bowl night. When Bob gets home, he finds Nadia waiting. She admits she used to date Eric and warns Bob that he's dangerous. Their bond grows closer, but Bob keeps things friendly. Then he finds Eric's umbrella in Rocco's cage, proof that Eric broke into his house. Meanwhile, Marv kills Pitch to cover his tracks, making it look like Kopka was behind everything. He later meets Eric and convinces him to join a robbery plan for Super Bowl night. Detective Torres studies Eric's medical records and learns he's mentally unstable. Bob visits Eric again, and Eric demands $10,000 to drop his claim on Rocco. Bob stays calm and refuses to fight. That night, Marv tells Bob he's sick and won't work on Super Bowl night, which makes Bob suspicious. Sensing danger, Bob hides his money and a pistol inside the bar's drawer. At the same time, Eric breaks into Nadia's house and forces her to go with him to the bar that night. At the bar, Bob is busy receiving Mafia money when he suddenly sees Nadia arrive with Eric. He keeps his eyes on them as chaos builds around him. Outside, Marv prepares his own plan. He lines the trunk of his car with plastic, making it clear he's ready for violence. Inside, Eric approaches Bob and demands the $10,000. Bob refuses, unless Eric provides documents and proof through the chip that Rocco is his. Their exchange is cut short when Eric gets a call from Marv. Marv tells him he showed up too early and instructs him to wait until 2 a.m. to carry out the job. From his car, Marv listens in on the bar's conversations to track what's happening. At the counter, Nadia quietly tells Bob that Eric forced her to come by threatening her at home. Bob gives Eric the $10,000, but Eric reveals his real goal. He plans to steal the Mafia's money from the bar safe, which unlocks automatically for 90 seconds at set intervals. Bob realizes the ransom demand was only a cover, and Eric's true plan has always been to target the Mafia's cash. Eric then asks Bob how much Nadia means to him and pretends to ask about Marv's whereabouts. Bob takes the opportunity to share a story from 10 years earlier, when Marv was drowning in gambling debt. A big win at the casino allowed him to pay it off, but the man who kept pressuring him and threatening the bar was Rick. Bob secretly killed Rick, shooting him twice in the face, mutilating the body, and hiding it in the underground tank. The long-standing rumor that Eric was Rick's killer was false. With the truth revealed, Eric continues his threats until Bob finally has enough. He shoots Eric, exposing his cold-blooded side, then warns Nadia that men like Eric never stop and must be eliminated. Terrified, Nadia runs from the bar, shaken but alive. As Nadia leaves, Marv waits outside and calls Eric, but Bob answers the phone instead, staying silent. He already knows Marv was behind everything. Bob cuts up Eric's body and wraps the pieces. Soon after, Kopka's men arrive. They take the Mafia money and Eric's remains. Before leaving, they tell Bob he now controls the bar. They also reveal that Marv has been taken care of. He was shot while sitting in his car, listening in on the bar. It's a quiet place. The next day, Detective Torres visits the bar. He offers his sympathy for Marv's death and says Eric has gone missing. He also reveals that Eric was in a mental hospital when Rick disappeared, meaning he couldn't have killed him. Torres hints that he suspects Bob and says Bob will be called to testify. Later, Bob goes to see Nadia. He apologizes for putting her in danger and tells her not to see him again. But Nadia asks him to leave with her and says she wants to marry him. So the lesson of the story is, if you find a puppy in the trash, be ready to deal with gangsters, body parts, and a lot of awkward moments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.